Hi, Bo here from High Tech Investment, and welcome back to the channel, where in today's video it might be one of the best EAs we have on our hands, the best grid trading EA we have seen in a very long time. This one here cashes in, and today we're gonna try and unlock the secrets. I'm gonna try explain to you exactly what this particular one does, how you deal with it, and also how we have actually managed to trade with it. There's a couple of different versions, and each version has a different way of basically being handled in order not to blow your accounts. So the trade secrets is going to be out of the bag at the end of this particular video here, but I have to tell you that in order to understand fully what it is that we are doing in here, please go back and watch some of my first videos, because this comes out of an entire series, and this is now number 8 in the series in here, where we started off with the Forex Grid Trading Explained, basically the area you want to trade in, the gap sizes you need to use, and also the expansion of the grid. And another basic part in here is also the lot sizing you have to use, depending on if you're using $1,000, $10,000. We are trying to explain to you exactly what you should use. You can calculate it for yourself here also. And this goes for all the different EAs you see on the screen here, like the Profit Retriever, which is the oldest one in the recovery series from Expert Forex. You have the Wave Liberator, ISI Liberator, HDA, Lucky Trader, Bill Trader, and now also you have the simple grid trading robots in here, both version 3 and 4. And 3 and 4 is the ones that we're going to go through here today and show you exactly how we have unlocked all this potential and also the results that we have. So in the first part, we basically have a look at 28 different currency pairs. We divide them into areas and then basically break it down to each grid size, what we should start off with. And that is what the first video is all about. That is the basics and the essence in grid trading. If you don't follow these particular steps in here, you might blow your account. So don't be basically discouraged with that. But we have found out here after many years of trading that the new setup works very well for us. We introduced this at the end of 2024, and it has certainly made things a lot more interesting, a lot more profitable, and also basically making sure that we are not busting all our accounts here all the time. The second part is also another tool here to help all the traders out, figuring out exactly the lot size you can actually use on individual accounts. We are also going to show you that here today, exactly what you can and cannot do. And then it's entirely up to you how much risk you want to take. But it is very clear when you run out of money, when you use tools like this, and this is what I described in the second video series, and I'll make sure that both links are in the video description below, because that all ties up with the video that you see here also today. So what are we going to go through in the video? Well, I'm going to explain to you the EA, I'm going to explain to you how it works, and then also what actually to backtest, because again, some of the basic parts with the lots and the grids is already set. We are not backtesting any of this anymore. But we're also going to show you how to backtest. So there's obviously a couple of different options. Some are fast, some are slower, and we're going to go through all of it here today. So what should you expect? Well, this is the month of May for this particular grid trading EA. Most of the results in here is actually from generation 3 or version 3 in here. And as you can see, these numbers are already very good. Number 4, as we have unlocked some of the potential in here, can actually produce even more. And I'm going to show you exactly how that is possible. So we'll get into it and go through the EA step by step, break it all down for you. So at first glance, it might not look so simple. On your left-hand side over here, you have the variables, the values, and basically everything that the EA needs to get going. So you need to add details in here, but a lot of these details is actually support for this particular EA. If we go and have a look which EA we are looking at here today, it's the simple grid trader, and this particular one is generation 4, but generation 3 has exactly the same setup. There is no extra settings. We are going through the same ones today. The only thing that are different is actually the way they're being set up, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video. So this particular one is the simple grid trader generation 4 EA version 1. The provider is expertforex.com. And then for the support also and publisher, we have EA Factory. Those are the ones that are normally coding the EAs for Expert Forex. And these are also the ones that you need to go and call up for support if you have any issues with this particular EA. Normally, when you set up the EA, you apply that particular one to a chart, currency chart in here, and then you go on the comment section. Make sure that you have your long and short positions in there, because again, it will go both at buy and sell. So you need both of them in there. Enable alerts, allow live trading, and then also allow the DLL imports over here and allow imports of external experts. And then basically you have now successfully attached the EA to the chart. So the next part is obviously what do we need to do? And this is everything that the EA has to offer, everything from the values all the way down to the magic number. Yes, it looks like there's a lot of details and information on this particular one in here, but it is very simple. It is built into sections, so a very quick and easy overview. And if we have a look at the first part, this is also the only part that you need to change anything in. Everything else, as I mentioned, is simply information for you to try and get going with the right settings. So these particular 5 items are the ones that we're going to go through in this video here today, or you can simply follow the advice and as below here for individual grids, for lot sizing and for closures. Expert Forex has already given a lot of information and details for you to get going. So we're going to show you exactly how we are going to do it. And the first part is actually, we're not going to backtest most of the stuff. So that means all the stuff that I just highlighted in yellow in here, such as the gap pips, that is already been set. That is being set based on the 28 currency pair Excel that I showed you here in the beginning. We have basically looked at the grid area that we want to cover all the time and the pips that goes in with it. Then we do a bit of a calculation, which has been shown in the first video. And then we come out with a number at the end of the day. This number here will be different between generation 3 and generation 4. And I'm going to go into that later on in the video. So please stay tuned all the way through. The second part is the gap change by percentage. And also here, there's also a difference for the generation 3 item, because it works very similar to many of the other EAs like the Bell Trader, Lucky Trader, the RSI, and also the Wave Liberator versions. We are using 20%, and that means that every single time it puts on a new gap, that is actually getting 20% larger, not smaller, larger actually. For the generation 4, it's actually 40%, and I'll explain also why the difference a bit later on. Last part is the lot that you can see here. And again, this comes from the second video that I made, where we again calculate how many lots you can have based on also your grid sizing. And we have basically the standard in here for 0.03. It doesn't matter what currency it is, because the currency basically blend out. So what we have, that comes through the gaps up here, where we are making different grids for different currency pairs. So even the ones that are high volatility, they also have a bigger gap. So at the end of the day, the risk is basically turned into exactly the same. Doesn't matter which currency pair it is. So that's the beauty of our system. Then we have the re-entry for closure. That's the re-entry allowed. That means that normally if you have your closure for profits, this particular one is set for 36. It will simply close. It will not start anything again. So you have shut down your robot. But if you are interested, you have the right settings, you're comfortable with the EA, obviously you have to put re-entry allowed, and then it will continue to trade Monday to Friday on the Forex markets. So what are the testing areas that we are looking at in here? Well, I told you the gap pips, we are not really touching that. We are not really backtesting anything. So, but you can obviously, you can put in start sections In this particular case, we have 12. We normally always, if we test anything, we do steps of 2 for the grid, and then it's up to, in this particular case here, we stop at 90. But again, this depends on the individual currency pair, and I refer back to the Excel in video 1. Then we have change for the gap percentage. I mentioned before that this is 40 for generation 4 and then 20% for generation 3. And again, you can of course play with this yourself. You can start off with 20%. You have then steps of 5 in here, and then you can stop at 80%. That is certainly a huge increase over time. Then we have the lot size, and again, we are not testing this particular one here either, but if you are getting some high drawdowns for some reason, then you can always start off with 0.01. That is also the recommendation that we'll find here and go through. And then we have a 0.01 as a step, and then you can go up to 0.06. It depends on how you evaluate your own risk. If you want to try and make a big profit very, very quickly while the market is not trending. Then you have the closure of the profits amount, and this one is actually quite interesting. And at first glance, you can say, well, I want to have close the entire loop down. So whatever open trades that you have, it will all close after you are positive in $10. And then you can test that up with a step of 2 up to $100. This particular one in here could actually make the EA look like it had losses. We certainly saw that in the beginning where it is cashing in. So if you have set this particular one, in this case here, we have it for 36. And that now means that it's cashing in, it is cashing in, and the profit might have gone even to 50 in here. So on your MT4 or MT5 platform, but you also have some drawdowns, you have some open trades, and they might be in minus $50 at the time. The EA will continue to trade until the drawdown actually comes down, and then they will close those in a minus. And basically the EA is looking at the entire series since you started the trade. So, and then say, okay, we have maybe made more than 36, but we have some trades that are in minus, which means that at the end of the day, the equity for the account is below 36. So it will continue to trade. You will look at the EA and it looks like it's made $50 or $60. And then all of a sudden next day, it has dropped down again because now the drawdowns for the open trades in here has come down from 50 maybe to 15. And then it basically calculates the entire range since you started the EA and say, well, now we have the 36 that you asked for. We close all of the accounts. So if you look from start to finish, you made the 36. But if you look on day by day, you could have made a lot of money on Monday and Tuesday. And then the robot cashes basically throws in a couple of minuses for you. And then at the end of the day, when you do the entire calculation, it actually comes out at 36 still. It can be a bit confusing, but it works quite well because it stops the entire grid, resets, and then starts again. So we find that the lower the values in here, the better it is. And there's also some guidance that we're going to go through with Expert Forex. Re-entry after, so re-entry allowed, we obviously have that. You only have two options, re-entry allowed or re-entry disabled. So that will only give you one trading cycle, and it will stop as soon as the close profits in here, as I mentioned before. So in order to help you, Expert Forex have put a few things together for you. So we are using our Excel, but as I mentioned in here, depends on the currency pairs. So again, Euro, Great British Pounds, CAD Swiss francs, New Zealand Swiss francs. Basically, they suggest a 30 pip gap in here, and then it goes all the way up to the US Japanese, Great British Pounds Japanese, saying, okay, you should use a gap of 80 pips in here, and then you can again go and have a look and try and backtest this for yourself. But we are using some standardized stuff that now seems to work quite well for us. The second part is the lot sizing suggestion that you have in here. And it says again for a 10,000 demo account, so funded pair, traded pair, you should use 0.1. And if you have a $1,000 account, you should use 0.01. In our case, we are using 0.03 for each of the accounts, each for $1,000 accounts. The way we set things up, definitely it works very, very well for us, but you can start lower and you can always build it up as you are feeling comfortable with the EA. The next part is the closure for the profits that we also talked about, and the lot size traded, so close profits on suggested when using 0.1. Again, this is $100 closure, and if you use 0.01, then it is $10. So again, this is not pips, so just be very careful with this particular one. There's no pips in here, there's only dollars. So if you are changing your lot size, you should also adjust so the closure profits accordingly. So very, very important. So on many of the other EAs that Expert Forex comes out with, there is a pip closure, and that obviously takes care of no change in the lot sizing. But here you gotta make it count depending on what account size you actually have in here. So if you start off with a $1,000 account, you want to expand that to a $2,000 or $3,000 account, then you also need to adjust the target accordingly in order to make it fit and actually work properly. The next part, when you are then backtesting, and I mentioned before, there's not really much to backtest in here. So everything is set up as it is already. And the testing is initial deposits. In this particular case, it's the US dollars position, long and short, and then optimized parameters. We normally use the balance part in here. Again, as I mentioned, for many of the EAs, if it is the first time that you are doing this, and if you want to have a quick look on some of the best settings, or at least the area for the settings, you can actually click and use the genetic algorithm in here. We are normally only using that for the first time. When we see a new EA, we click a lot of different things to test at the same time. It should only take the best, but it's not that accurate actually, but it gives you a good idea of where you are. And then you have the model numbers in here. You have 3 different models you can run. You have every tick, which is normally not available straight away. So you have to buy the program, and I will make sure that the link for this is also in the video description below. Otherwise, you have control point and you have open prices. These last 2 is normally the broker data, and that is not good enough for this particular type of setup. So always we definitely prefer every tick that to be used, but if you want to have some quick looks and overview of what this EA can do, you can use control points, so which is a bit more accurate, and then open prices. That gets a bit further and further away from the real results at the end of the day. So all these items can be set up very, very quickly in the MT4 for your testing. So again, I've broken down the testing part in here. So when you are testing it with the Expert Advisor, make sure that you select the right one, the Simple Grid Trader Generation 4 in here. We have the simple Swiss francs Japanese, so you set that up. And then we have the model for the every tick that we have in here. And this is the most accurate, 99.9%. Normally when we are testing the data, we start somewhere between 6 to 8 months. It depends a bit on what is actually happening in the market. We know that there was several times in 2024, such as back in March. We had another one in July, August, and then we had again US dollar also trending in October and November. And those items, sometimes it is worth actually having them in there, so you know that the EA is actually stable enough to survive some of these trends. And then we have even more in 2025. With the trade war starting, so US against the rest of the world, I guess, and that obviously upset a lot of different currency pairs. So if you're testing that particular period in here, well, you are covering a lot of different aspects, and if the testing results is good, well, then your EA should be able to manage pretty much anything, and your settings are safe and secure. Obviously, we are testing this on our VPS servers also. We like to run tests over the weekend on those to make sure that these are the accurate results. We are actually using the VPS Forex trading service. We use that now for several years in here. It's a very good and stable service again, where you always have electricity, you always have internet, not like when you have it on your laptop, then that might run out of power, might run out of internet. So if you don't have all these power and internet backups, then I definitely suggest you go and have a look at the VPS Forex Trader. They have smaller setups, and we have our own private servers in here because we have quite a few EAs, more than 140 now. So we can definitely recommend that. And then obviously you need some good brokers. In this particular case, we are using Black Bull. We are using the IC Markets Global. They have very, very low spreads. So I will also make sure that these links are in there, because brokers are regulated, low spreads, and they are paying out. They have been paying us out for years here now, and that's the important part. At the end of the day, it's not very good if you're trying to make money, and then when you want to take it out, nothing happens. So all of this is good. You're using the tick data. We are testing everything that we have on the 15-minute platform, and then we're using a spread of 5 in here. So, and then we have the optimization. Everything is running. You click start and you get your data and details out. Now, we are not showing you how to test it this time around, because there's pretty much nothing to test. As I mentioned here before, there's only one section that we have, and that was the close profit down here. This is part of the Excel that we do for every single EA, for every single currency pair. In this particular case in here, it's number 18 account for the simple grid trader. And we are trading the Swiss francs Japanese. You can see it's traded on a demo account. And again, the leverage is 1 to 200. I believe we also have one for 1 to 500. It's definitely enough no matter what. In this particular case, you'll notice that we started off 1st of September because I want to show you a bit of history. But we started off 1st of September 2024 up until 29th of May. So this was done a while back, and then we are going forward from there. Again, we have the details in here, and at the top you will find basically the longest trends that we are taking, and this comes again from our first video that we did. This is the size of the grid in pips, 1475. Then we add an additional 20%, so safety margin is 120. That takes it up to 1774. We split that into 10. We want to have a max grid size of 10. Normally you shouldn't have any more than 7 or 8. And then we have the grid gap that is being calculated for us at 177. Again, this is a huge gap even for the Swiss francs Japanese. So what we do is we cut it down into half, and that's where you see the 89. So the 89 is the pip gap that we are actually using for this currency pair. Then the normal gap scaling rate, as I mentioned for all the EAs we have, is 120. So that is put in automatically. We're not back testing that either. Then the trade lot entry, again, as I mentioned, we set all of them up for 0.03 lots unless something is really, really wrong with the currency pair. But that basically leads down to the measuring of the grid that we've done in the first place. So the only thing that we now have is close at profits. And I showed you that earlier on. What you can do, you can basically, we measure normally from 10 with steps of 2, or you can do it with 5. We like to do it with 2 up to about 100, depending on, again, how big of a lot size you're using. But for 0.03, we are only going up to 100, and then you can basically cover it very, very quickly. It's not going to take too long if you only do that particular test. Back on the 5th of May, we did some back testing, and the settings we used here, we closed in at 65, and at the end, so that is a bit higher than the recommendation from Alex, an expert Forex, but it seems to work. What we're always looking for is a series of numbers that are close to each other. That seems to work. And we're getting around 552 out. So this is basically the profits. And then we have a drawdown of 31.22%. And then the drawdown is actually $319. So that is the first test that we got. So this is the generation 3 that has been put in place. Now the next part that we're going to do is, as we got in generation 4 in here, we are now trying to test that particular one out. And again, it wasn't so simple. So to exactly extract the extra profits, we started off with the same settings with generation 3 as we did with right here with generation 4. Basically, we lost profits, but we also had a lower drawdown. So that was okay, but the results definitely didn't look too good. So we tried to cut the grid in half down to 45. And then because we are cutting this one in half, the gap scaling rate now has to come double of that. So that will actually be 40. Lot entry is still the same. And then we back tested this again. This time around, it was 35 that came out. So that was closer also to where we wanted to be. We wanted to close as many times as possible, restart the grid. So 35 was the area that we chose. And you can see the profit actually doubled in here. And then at the same time, the drawdown was 19%. And then all of a sudden also $216 was the drawdown. So it certainly improved in this particular factor here. We wanted to take it even further. So because we also understood that there's a difference on the generation 4 between with the trend and against the trend on the grid sizing itself. And we're going to go on the Expert Forex website in just a moment to show you exactly what I mean here. We went very aggressive and said, okay, the pip gap, we're going to cut it in half again. So that means it is now down to about a quarter of what we started off with all our other EAs. Gap scaling, we're actually keeping the same. So, and there's a reason for that again, because the gap scaling in between the with the trend and against the trend is so big and powerful already. So we didn't have to change that. And we ended up with a close of a profit of 36 this particular time. So again, very, very similar. So, but look at the change. So in the drawdown and profits went up, and we are still talking about from 1st of September till end of May. So this is obviously 8-9 months that we are testing, but we started off with a $1,000 account, and 350% would be the number. So for 3,500 in profit, the percentage of drawdown was 17.18, so very, very low. And the total drawdown was 346. So that was the highest drawdown in dollars that we actually incurred in that particular time. So you can see you have actually a possibility to dial the EA down if you want. This might be a bit high for some, but definitely a good medium risk strategy that you have in here, where there's still a long way to blow your account. And again, we are using the math from the video 1 to make sure that that doesn't happen, still with the grid size and also with the gap scaling rate that we have in here. So I just jumped over to the Expert Forex website in here, and it says the Grid Trader series, Grid Trader robot options that are currently available. The first one here is the free simple Grid Trader that I mentioned, and then you have a development from generation 2 to 3, and then the latest one here is generation 4. And then it explains exactly the different settings of it. So you have the free Grid Trader. So obviously this is a very simple form of it. And then Alex has basically built on this particular one to make it better and better. Even the illustrations here show very well how things are operating. And he has also a few in here himself, the Grid Trader number 2, how that particular opens, and also with the basket of trades that are there, the settings that you have in here, and then the generation 3 that we are covering here today. again shows you examples with no gap scaling. We always use that particular one because it creates extra income. So with the gap scaling, we are using 20% for the generation 3. The red line in here, as you'll notice, we'll zoom in a bit. The red line is here, and then if the trade goes against you, it opens another grid. If it continues, it opens another grid, but you can see the grid is also opening up. And in this particular case for us, it's about 20% every single time it opens up based on the previous one. So that is the main section of it. Generation 3 also has the same setup as I've shown you here before. It lies actually in the EA itself. We're getting to the Grid Trader Generation 4 in here. And now there is a with the trend and against the trend leg in here. So that is the new part for the Generation 4 versus Generation 3. So you have the section here with the trend where you continue to open up the grids in the normal fashion. So that is no different. So you put in whatever numbers that you have. So that seems to be working with the trend. Against the trend here again, you are still opening up now with the 40% instead. So that means the gaps when things are not going your way, you're actually keeping your drawdown a lot lower. It won't enter at the grids in the same level as with the trend. And that actually helps keeping the drawdown low all the way through. So this is a very good illustration of this particular one in here on how it actually works and operates. And then once all of these are in a positive, and that could be $30, $40, $50, whatever it is that you set it up for here in the beginning, similar to what we have here, closure profit 10, then the entire grid will close and then the trading will start all over again. So we really like this particular part in here. You can see the Grid Trader series, it's summarized. You can go and have a lot more details and information on this. And there's also videos from Alex in here. He's also showing some of the profits results that he has gotten out so far. So with that valuable information here, I hope you now have learned how you can do this yourself. So you can go and buy this particular EA from Expert Forex. You know exactly how to set it up. I've given you the tools. Now for your grid size, for the currency pairs, you can go and basically copy everything over there. You have your lot size. All you have to do is go and test just the currency for the basket when it's going to close. Very, very simple. There's not many combinations in here. And as I said, if you do it from 10 with gaps of 2 up to 100, then that is all you need if you are trading the $1,000 accounts. Or you can go also and have a look at what Expert Forex does. It's all part of the EA. It will suggest you the grid size in here and also when to close the entire baskets. You can use those and try and combine the two, see which ones are actually working the best. I hope also that this particular part of the video here shows you exactly what we are doing, because that is important to understand. We are putting these on the coupling service very soon. They have already been given over to Alex and Expert Forex for review. So I hope in one of the future videos that I'll be able to tell you that these are now available for you also to copy in here, but at least you know exactly what it is that we are doing, how we are getting the profits, and what kind of risk that we're also taking with these particular signals in here. Now, this is one of my private real money account in here for the grid trading EAs. We set it up in the beginning on generation 3. Then some of them are now generation 4. This particular account that you are seeing is a generation 4 account in here. It's a $5,000 account that we have set up. Its only history is 2 weeks, so 15 days in here. So what we normally do is we bunch them up in a portfolio. You can see the portfolio right here. Aussie CAT, Swiss francs, Japanese, Euro, Swiss francs, and then Great British Pounds, New Zealand. There's a few Swiss francs, maybe too many, but we like some of the parts that are coming out, especially on the profits and the low drawdown side. So we have an overweight of that, which most probably you shouldn't unless you are comfortable with the signals. Again, look at the numbers in here. Any grid, we always start with an equity that is below, but this is 2 weeks in and the equity is pretty much at the 5,000 mark that we started off with. So we always have a floating profit of loss. Not if you only trade, of course, one currency pair at a time, then it will close the basket and start over again. So you'll see the zero. But now that we are putting them into a portfolio, and we are doing that, portfolios of 5 or 10, we normally recommend that because that will make sure that if one currency pair really trend and goes up to 800 or 900 in drawdown, when you have them all in a portfolio, that doesn't break the account. The other accounts that are still running quite nicely, they will still make sure that the last one will survive, and that has gotten us out of trouble in the past, so we continue to do that. So total return, obviously after 2 weeks we are down at minus 0.2, but look at the monthly returns that we have been calculated from FX Blue, 20.9%, that a weekly return of 4.6. Again, real money account. That particular account here we have 2 days later, so this is actually today as we are shooting the video. Same account again. Started off with 5,000, equity is now 5,024, so it's already now starting to make money after only 2 weeks time. Monthly returns, yes, it has dropped slightly. It is plus 19.3. We can certainly live with that, and the weekly returns is currently calculated at 4.3. Trade wins are a very high 91% here almost, and we already taken 2,957 pips. So this EA is really crushing it. So if I now have piqued your interest and you want to know more about this particular EA, you want to see more of our results also, basically jump on the High Tech Investment website, which we're on right now. Go to portfolio up here, then have a look at all our EAs that we have. Click the simple grid trader in here. It will again explain a bit on what is actually happening. You can see some of the generation 3 results that we have. With this particular portfolio, it is a bit of a mix, but now leaning towards generation 4 as we are getting used to this particular EA. You also have the 2 videos that I mentioned in the beginning that is very important to see, so you can go and pick them up straight from our website. And then you can see also how well we have done every single week. The results is quite good. And if we have a look here also below, you can see from April, this was generation 3, May still generation 3 mostly. And now you can see the updated portfolio in here, how well we are doing. Have a look at the floating profit and loss. We started off again here, so with 20 accounts, $1,000 each. The now balance is almost 24,000. Floating profit and loss 2,134, and then we have closed profits almost 4,000. So we are well into the pluses as it is already. And I also did some changes to some of the generation 3 and even some of the generation 4 that wasn't tracking well enough. You can see the monthly returns overall for the portfolio is 9.7%, 2.2% per week, but it's actually doing a lot better here now. And obviously it's going to be interesting to see. There is a low volatility in the Forex market, so we might not have seen the full extent of what this particular EA can do. But if the entire portfolio again is already at this particular level here for a very new EA, you can see that the history is 65 days. This is the old generation 3 that has accumulated for most of this. I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what's going to kick off when we see generation 4 in here. And all of the details, you can also go to FX Blue, the simple grid trader portfolio overview, and you can look at the individual ones. We have also provided some extra details, as I mentioned before, on the VPS, regulated brokers. There is some details and information for you here to read. And then you see we have the 20 accounts in here where you can go and find a lot more details. You can see which currency pairs is the ones that we are actually tracking with the best here at the moment. So you can also start with some of the best ones of our currency pairs. So as you can see, we are very excited about this simple grid. And now that I shared the trade secrets also on how we are setting it up, what results we are getting, it couldn't be any easier with the new simple series that Expert Forex has actually put out for us. So we are very, very grateful for this. And we are so confident with our results that we, as you saw already, have put real money to the test in here. We love the low drawdown all the way through. We are testing it on multiple different platforms in different types of portfolios. And you now also have access to our 20 EAs, basically running different currency pairs. So you can pick and choose which ones they are. And hopefully either you will be able to go on the copy link service and then copy all our signals here very, very soon as Alex get them approved and we have them set up. Or you can simply go and buy the EA for yourself, have a look at our results, see which ones that we are getting the best out of. You now have our secrets, you know the grids, you know the lots. All you have to do is test with your broker in here on when the basket should close. It couldn't be any simpler, and it's something that you can do in a single day, even when you are using the tick data that we definitely recommend for you to make sure that you have good, stable data. So I really hope you like this video, and please give us a thumbs up and a like, and I would also appreciate a comment. Anything good or bad, we are obviously always listening and ready to learn from anything that we have missed in this particular video here. So I hope to see you on one of my other videos very soon. Bye-bye.